Let's get silly! Welcome to the Mustache and the Beard. Two great geeks. Go ahead.
Two great geeks. Changing the world one post at a time.
Yeah, my name is Louis Matos. I am the Mustache. We're doing our 200th post. Woohoo!
200.
I'm so psyched about that.
I am Junior Figueroa. I am the Beard. And I am psyched. Wait, let me get my Puerto Rican noisemaker. Here we go. Here we go.
What I really want is for you to do your belly bongos. We'll have some music on. All right. 200 posts and not yet a year. You know, our blogiversary.
Blogiversary!
Coming up soon. Yes, we are loud. We are this loud and we are this obnoxious.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Just ask any of our relatives. Why do you think they sent us here to Puerto Rico?
To get rid of us.
They get rid of us. But we got our revenge because we're making these videos,
and they have to watch.
And they have to watch us.
All right, so let's not forget that we have our YouTube launch on the same day. So yeah, as our anniversary. So yes. 1 year will be September 30th. Right. And so we will have our YouTube launch party.
Yay!
We're excited about that. All right, so now for this...
YouTube will never be the same.
And for this post, it is the 200th post of the mustacheandthebeard.com.
We already crashed YouTube once.
I know. Yeah, our tech people were uploading videos too fast for YouTube. YouTubers. They sent them a message saying, too many videos in one day.
Cease and desist.
All right. So we're going to be talking about the Star Trek pilots, and we'll be ranking them. 7
shows.
Uh-huh.
Now let's go over this. These are the 7 live-action Star Trek series so far. Enterprise, Discovery, the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Picard. Okay, those 7. We're not touching, because Strange New Worlds has not come out, so we're not touching, or Section 31. We're not touching those. We're not touching the animated Star Trek, the animated series, because it was an animated series, and pretty much it was a follow-up of the original series. And we're not touching neither short treks nor lower decks. So that's what we're going to do. Those 7 series. The pilots.
Yes. Not the entire series.
Not the entire series. Not the first episode, although in most cases the pilot is the first episode. But specifically the pilots for those series.
Okay. Star Trek: The Original Series was where we're going to begin, and we wanted to explain, I guess, right?
Yeah, an explanation is in order.
Yeah, the cage was rejected.
Right. Gene Roddenberry filmed the cage for NBC. Understand, the production company was Desilu, the company that was started by Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball. However, by this time, they had divorced, and Lucy was the head of the production company. Shortly after this, she sold it to Paramount, which is how Paramount wound up with owning Star Trek. But at this stage, it's Desilu. Roddenberry makes the cage he actually presented half a dozen story ideas. NBC picked the one that they liked, and he made the cage, starring Jeffrey Hunter as Captain Christopher Pike. If you're a Star Trek geek like us, you've seen the cage. Well, although it was well received in terms of
fandom
and production values, NBC was amazed that you could do a series, and it looked like a movie. You know, they were amazed at that.
The Smithsonian Institute actually asked Roddenberry, you know what? We think this show is going to be groundbreaking. How about you give us the first episode?
Right, for the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
So, but NBC rejected the pilot because they found it too cerebral. And Roddenberry had promised them Wagon Train to the Stars. And he had promised them action adventure. Westerns were big at that time. And he had promised them a space western.
Yeah, how dare those sci-fi geeks, use their brains?
Yes, so they rejected the pilot. But in stepped Lucy. Lucy believed in Star Trek, and she believed in Gene Roddenberry. She liked Gene Roddenberry. And so she convinced them that it was their fault because they're the ones that picked the cage. And there was also a clause in her contract with NBC that to allow for in this event for a second pilot to be done. So NBC agreed to let a second pilot be done. And again, from the various story ideas, they picked one that they thought was dead on action adventure entitled "When No Man Has Gone Before." By the time Gene Roddenberry came to film the second pilot, Jeffrey Hunter was no longer, he wasn't interested in doing Star Trek. He turned it down. And a lot of the people, a lot of the actors that were in the cage were unavailable. So Roddenberry was forced to create new characters. The NBC was adamant to get rid of Number one, and Spock. They didn't like the idea of a female second in command. What, a woman commanding a ship? No. And then they didn't like Spock because they said that Spock was satanic, right? So Roddenberry says that he had enough pull to save one of the two characters. He couldn't save both of them. So he decided to save Spock and marry number one.
As a consolation prize.
Yeah, he saved Spock and married number one because he said the other way wouldn't have worked. So what he did was Majel Barrett. He married Majel Barrett. She became Majel Roddenberry, and eventually she went on the show as Christine Chapel, Nurse Chapel. But he insisted upon Spock. He said that there had to be at least one character on the ship that's an alien that reminds you constantly that they're in outer space. So and it worked, and they made the second pilot, Where No Man Has Gone Before, with William Shatner. Got the gig, and they did where No Man Has Gone Before. NBC bought the show, and the rest is history. So this is the strange. What makes it even stranger is that later on they were falling behind schedule, so they decide to take the Cage and turn it into a 2-part episode called The Menagerie, and thereby making the Cage and the characters of the Cage an official part of Star Trek canon.
Mm-hmm.
And so, which is fast forward now, 50 some odd years, and we're getting Star Trek: Strange New Worlds with Captain Pike as the captain of the Enterprise,
which you love,
which I love.
Yeah.
So, but what we're dealing with today is where No Man Has Gone Before, the pilot
to the
original series, and the one that actually sold the series.
We couldn't count the Cage as the pilot because they changed everything.
It isn't an indication of the show, and they rejected it. So it's not what sold the show.
Yeah. So this is what sold the show.
Yeah. Basically, the story is that Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, and the crew of the Starship Enterprise desperately seek a solution to Second Officer Gary Mitchell's gaining godlike powers as an Esper. It was written by Samuel A. Peebles and directed by James Goldstone. Goldstone? Goldstone.
Yeah.
For thinking that there said Goldstone. You want to know what I like about it?
Yeah.
Okay, what I did, I'm going to do what I didn't like so I can end on a positive note. Okay, what I didn't like. What is up with those uniforms? Okay? They look like they were stitched together by a little old lady in Poughkeepsie. Okay? Spock's uniform especially looks bad. No, you can see the stitching, you can see threads, especially now. They may have gotten away with it back then, low definition. But now we got HD. These shows have been remastered, right? Mm-hmm. Oh my God, you could.
It's glaring.
It's glaring. You're looking at those uniforms and saying, "Man, the seamstress on that ship was having a bad day." I mean, it's distracting. It's distracting. Then also, okay, I'm supposed to believe that Second Officer Gary Mitchell, in the middle of a crisis, reaches back to comfort Yeoman Smith, right? Yeoman Smith is introduced as the captain's yeoman. She's standing behind Mitchell. They're in this crisis. He reaches back, he's got one hand on his console, reaches back to hold her hand in the middle of this crisis, right?
It's just...
Now, come on.
You'd never get away with that nowadays.
Come on. No. Listen, if it can't happen nowadays, it can't happen then.
In the future.
Can you imagine the aircraft carrier USS Enterprise is in the middle of a crisis, and the second officer is going to reach back to hold hands with one of the yeomen? Give me a break. The guy will get drummed off the bridge. And the captain will put your mind back in the game, mister. Come on. Now, are we supposed to get from this that they have a personal relationship? Right?
I think that's what it is.
That you're trying to tell us that they have a personal... Otherwise, why do it, right? But then, Mitchell winds up in the hospital. She doesn't come to see him. What happened to all that personal relationship? What happened to the caring, right? He's in the hospital. No Yeoman Smith. He then takes up with Dr. Denner. No jealousy. So what the hell was all that on the bridge with him reaching back and holding her hand? It was ridiculous. Yeah, let me tell you something. The writer goofed up on this one big time. So I'm upset. Wait. Now, thumbs up. Okay. I watched this recently, and I have to admit, William Shatner gives the most relaxed performance of his career. Because he is so not Shatner. Yeah, I mean, come on. Comedians have been doing Shatner for years, and we all know that when he gets up there, he emotes in this manner. Okay, but you watch
the pregnant pauses are horrible.
Watch this. He is so relaxed. He is
natural.
So natural. He is so. You're looking at first. You're like, is this William Shatner? And second, you're like, is this Kirk? Because and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful to watch. I actually enjoyed it, especially like when he goes to visit Gary Mitchell in sick bay, and they start talking about old times. He is so not Kirk. He's really a guy visiting his best friend in the hospital. It's wild.
Whispering.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't. But it's really he gives his most relaxed performance. So I love that. Now I also love the imaginative use of angles by the director. The director didn't film like at one point he's up on the ceiling looking down on Kirk and Spock as they're waiting to go into a turbo lift. You don't see that in the rest.
No.
That was unique to that pilot. I loved it. It really works as an introduction to the world of Star Trek. Where no man has gone before. It works. It works as an introduction to Star Trek. It's not really an introduction to Spock because of the cage, but it works as an introduction of Kirk and we got Scotty and we got Sulu and the whole concept and for its time, the visual effects are spot on. The special effects are spot on. It really works in that respect. So altogether, I'm giving it a rating of 3 Great Geeks. The next show is Star Trek: The Next Generation. The pilot is called Encounter at Farpoint. You generally see this as a 2-part in syndication, but it was shown as one movie-length episode when it premiered. Now, the basic plot is Captain Picard and the crew of the Enterprise D try to solve the mystery of Farpoint Station, a starbase where everything is not as it seems to be. Meanwhile, they are also put on trial by the godlike being known as Q. It was written by D.C. Fontana and Gene Roddenberry and directed by Corey Allen. Basically, the popularity of the movies had prompted Paramount to start thinking about a new Star Trek series. Roddenberry at first was dead set against it. He said no, and they kept on, and he said no. And what was behind Paramount's mind was that they were already thinking about starting a Paramount network. Okay, that didn't come till decades later. But back then they were already thinking about, and they wanted Star Trek to be the flagship of their own network. So they kept talking to Roddenberry, and he kept saying no. And what happened was that they finally, at one point, they said, "Yeah, you're probably right. It can't be done." And then that's when Roddenberry changed his mind. He said, "What do you mean it can't be done? What do you mean it can't be done? We could do it, you know." And
reverse psychology.
Reverse psychology. He stepped in, and what he brought out, the first thing he did when he got a go ahead from Paramount to go ahead with this was he collected his old people, Robert H. Justman, D.C. Fontana. You know, he brought in David Gerald. You know, all his old people, and they sat down to do to write the pilot. The thing is, what he wrote, what they came up with, was for a 1-hour episode. Paramount stepped in and said they wanted it to be a movie length. So now they had to take that 1 hour story and turn it actually into 90 minutes. Right? They took a 45-minute story and turned it into 90 minutes.
Powder.
And the thing that they're doing is what they did is they stuck in non-meat filler.
Yeah.
So you had meat. Now you're shoving in non-meat filler. Okay, and I'll list you some of the non-meat filler. Admiral McCoy on the ship. There have a scene with DeForest Kelley as Admiral McCoy taking a tour of the ship with Data. It was inserted to kill time. The saucer section separating. That was to kill time. Wesley in the holodeck to kill time. All that was to pad.
Yeah, it's unnecessary
It
stuff.
was unnecessary. And what they made, this isn't meat. This was made to choke on non-meat filler.
It's horrible.
Then, on top of that, there's no sense of danger. Everyone looks like they're out on a Sunday stroll. Nobody rushes any place. They walk leisurely, calmly. Nobody raises their voice. Nobody gets excited. You know, it's boring. The episode is boring. There's no sense of impending danger. Now, tell me why Picard, in the middle of a crisis, picks himself up, goes to the sick bay, and starts talking to Dr. Crusher about if she wants a transfer off the ship. Now is the time to talk about that? We may not have a ship to transfer off, but you had to take that time to go to the sick bay to talk to Crusher about transferring off the ship. Ridiculous. Then Q suddenly appears on the bridge. Worf pulls out a phaser to shoot him. Oh, everybody on the crew walks around armed.
Yeah, it's a different show.
Everybody on the crew walks around armed. That would be you're telling me that on the aircraft carrier Enterprise, they find an intruder and a sailor has a gun and pulls out a gun. A common sailor is walking around with a gun in his pocket. That's what Worf did. And you know, I understand. It's because that if they get into an argument in the mess hall or the seating, they can settle it out with pistols at dawn. It's ridiculous. And another thing, oh my God. If Deanna Troi opened her mouth one time to say, I feel that Worf, since he's got that phaser anyway, he should have zapped her right there. And then, that whole thing with Q and putting them on trial and everything, that was added to fill it out. It's not. That was also non-meat filler. So, that's thumbs down. In terms of thumbs up, but the only thing I can say is it was nice to have Star Trek back. Okay.
Although we didn't feel that way.
Although you didn't really feel that way, it was nice to have even the crew. Even the cast thought they were going to be there for one season, and that was it, because it was that bad. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't like the show until the 4th season.
Wow.
I think the first 3 seasons of the show suck. Okay, but so ultimately we're talking about the pilot. We're not talking about the entire show. So. I have to give. I gave this 1 gray geek. And I wonder if that isn't sentimentality because it's Star Trek, but I gave it 1 gray geek.
Yeah, my initial reaction to Encounter at Farpoint is I hated it. My reaction was I hated that Star Trek was back, but done wrong, and I hated Q. So, it was very difficult to get into the characters, so anytime you have that, it makes things much more difficult. So, we're going to move on to Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
What's your...
my rating was 2 gray geeks. And it's 2 because, and it's hard to just keep it there because the show got better. Even with the death of a main character in that first season, you're like, wow, there are things there to like. But, that first episode, I remember we watched it together. There was like, we came together, we were at your brother's house with his wife, and I was with my wife, and we were watching it together, and we were like, it was good. It was all right.
You wanted to like it.
Yeah, it's like, it was horrible. Yeah, so it was one of those horrible experiences. All right, so we're going to move on to Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I wrote the little blurb. 3 years after his wife died at the hands of the Borg, following the Cardassian withdrawal from the planet Bajor, Commander Benjamin Sisko, new Starfleet crew, and Bajoran officers take command of an abandoned Cardassian space station. To Ben Sisko's chagrin, he also becomes a spiritual figure to the Bajoran people. And I think that places a very unique responsibility on the character. In this show, I loved every single character and grew to love them even more. In particular, I love the relationship between a father and a son. I've said it before. So Jake Sisko or Cirroc Lofton, they both, the times they were together showed a lot of heart. What did I hate? Well, it wasn't a very well written episode. I mean, the aliens...
And that's strange.
Yeah, the aliens inside of the wormhole. I mean, you get the wormhole thing, that's a unique thing. I think I grew to love that episode as I watched it more. The first episode was confusing, Emissary. It was confusing, and I would say that overall, it's only like mediocre. It's so I would say 3.5 gray geeks is what I thought of the episode.
I didn't like Kira Nerys. I thought she was a stink witch.
Yeah.
I didn't like the fact that the Deep Space Nine was presented as being so vulnerable.
Yeah.
So incapable of defending itself.
It's true.
So I agree with you that the prophets, inside the wormhole are somewhat confusing because that whole thing, the
spiritual aspect.
Well, no, the whole thing that we see time as being linear. They do not see time.
Yeah, he needed to explain that to them.
It is difficult. It's a difficult concept for most people. We're used to thinking of past, present, and future, linear time. But it hinged. Sisko's character was stuck in time because of the death of his wife. He was stuck, not physically. He was stuck spiritually. Yeah. He was stuck emotionally. He was stuck mentally in that moment in which his wife died. So it's for him. He had to, in explaining to the aliens linear time, he had to understand why they kept saying that he was stuck.
Yeah, he goes, why do you keep bringing me here? And she goes, no, you bring us here.
So I mean, it was beautifully done, but it is a dramatized philosophical discussion. which his character hinged on that. But it is, in this case, the criticism that was given to the Cage may be rightly leveled to Emissary. It was perhaps too cerebral.
Yeah, very cerebral.
It's very cerebral. And
philosophical was the word that you used, and it's absolutely correct.
It is. So, yes, I love the characters, except for Keira
Nerys, yeah.
But it really you're left with,
You have to watch it a couple of times to get it.
And then you have to keep watching the show. Which I guess, in a way it makes sense. This is the pilot. They built on the pilot. I mean, you're supposed to do that. But the pilot, standing on its own, it doesn't. I would give it three, Ricky. Next is Star Trek Voyager. The episode, the pilot's called Caretaker, written by Michael Piller and Jerry Taylor, and directed by Weinrich Colby. Captain Janeway leads the crew of the starship Voyager after the Maquis and into the Badlands. An alien entity known as the Caretaker transports them into the Delta Quadrant and stranding them there. Janeway then has to integrate her crew and the Maquis and begin their 75-year journey back home. Okay? Now, what didn't I like about this show? About this pilot? Actually, not the show, the pilot. Okay. It's not the most interesting story. Okay? The caretaker...
It's boring.
Yeah, the caretaker has been taking care of the Ocampa. I don't particularly like the Ocampa. I don't like the caretaker. So the only reason I didn't change the channel is because it's Star Trek. And I kind of like the characters. Ensign Kim was an interesting character. Mm-hmm. Paris is an interesting character. Chakotay is an interesting character. B'Elanna Torres. Oh my God! Hell yeah! For me, my favorite character was the holographic doctor. Yeah. So I liked the characters, and it was Star Trek, but the story was boring.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
And another one that was kind of hard to follow is like, what?
Yes. So now the thing is that it was a good introduction to their premise, right? It's a good introduction to their premise. I just wish that the reason why the caretaker had kidnapped them and brought them to the Delta Quadrant had been a better, more exciting reason than what was presented to us. The other thing is that she integrates the two crews a little bit
too quick. Yeah, absolutely.
There should have been more conflict. There should have been more butting heads.
And in other episodes, they do that, but it's we're just talking about the pilot.
I mean, you blink and all of a sudden the Maquis wearing Starfleet uniforms. Huh? What?
It's like desperate. Desperation. Could you join us, please?
So I like the characters. I like the ship, right? But I didn't like the story. I don't think the story was well done. So I'm giving it a 3 grade.
That's good. That's still
good.
Middle of the road for us.
Yeah. I think it was good. I liked what was Neelix. Mm-hmm. I like Neelix.
Yeah.
Wasn't too crazy about Kes.
Yeah.
And then
a lot of people weren't too crazy about it.
Which is why they eventually got rid of her. But overall, well, that worked. But they didn't work. It was the story. You picked the wrong story for the pilot.
Yeah. I loved Tuvok.
Yes.
Another character that's a
black Vulcan.
I loved B'Elanna Torres.
He said, live long and prosper, y'all.
I love that B'Elanna was like, I don't want to merge. She's the one that's like the stickler. Chakotay, what are you doing? I don't want to merge. I want to stay Maquis. And then he asked her to be the engineer, and she's like, you're going to get a promotion. And she's like, no, I don't want
to. It's a beautifully done episode.
Yeah.
The one where she becomes...
the engineer. Yeah. But it's like, I don't want to, And so she's the one that sticks to her principles. She still is a little has a little sedition in her heart.
Yes.
Like we're gonna rebel and we're gonna.
She remains a Klingon and a Latina for the whole series. She remains a Klingon and a Latina.
Yeah, and so Janeway has to win her over, and that we knew from the start. Janeway has to be the one that takes control of this. But yeah, you're right. As far as she's a little too quick to, we don't need anything. We are Starfleet, even though we're in the Delta Quadrant. So yeah, I do agree with you that it wasn't the greatest because it was a little boring, but there are touches in that episode that work as far as characterization is concerned. The relationship between B'Elanna and Chakotay, professional, very, no, I want us to be independent. No, we need to, blah, blah, blah. That touch, that using her as his, the person that he talks to, his sounding board.
Right.
So yeah, I agree. Although I'm going to say 3.5 Grey Geeks.
And another thing, you just reminded me, another thing, I think he was way too accepting of the fact that Tuvok was a spy. You're way too accepting.
They touch on that later, but it's like that episode is like, oh, I always knew you were a spy. No,
you should have gotten mad and hit him.
Something should have happened. So now we go a little backwards in time.
Because this is the first prequel.
Yeah. So the first prequel is Star Trek Enterprise, and the name of the episode is Broken Bow. All right. When a Klingon named Klang crushes in Broken Bow, Oklahoma, he manages to kill 2 Suliban, which we never knew about before, pursuers, but is captured by Starfleet. Captain Archer is lobbying for the opportunity to get Enterprise launched and sees this as a way to return Klang to Kronos is the best way to get the Enterprise launched, little knowing that the Suliban are lurking in wait. All right, so yeah, he didn't know about the Suliban. I really think this worked as a pilot. All right, I loved T'Pol from the beginning. Loved the dynamic of, as we had in the original series, we have the Vulcan being friends with the captain. Here in the beginning, they're not friends. In fact, she's there to spy and kind of, make things more difficult. So loved that it starts off unique to every other show. And, Archer, a good captain. I love the characters. So, but
They picked the perfect actor to play Archer.
Yes. Somebody that was already loved by sci-fi geeks. And so I say that this is 4 Grey Geeks in my estimation. I didn't make it 4.5 or 5 because I left that for another show that I'll be talking about a little later. All right, so perfect pilot in my estimation. Well, more close to perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of the strongest pilots of. It was a good introduction to the premise, a good introduction to the characters without taking away from the pacing. We learn about Hoshi. We learn about Travis. We learn about Reed. It was really well done, and it was a good setup for what they were trying to do with the show. With you come away wondering why are the Vulcans and the humans have such animosity towards each other. Well, that's part of the premise of the show. They're going to explain that as the show progresses. So, and who are the Suliban? What's this thing about a temporal time war? The temporal Cold War. Yeah, it's all there. They're setting it up. It's going to be explained later on. So yeah, I think as a pilot, Broken Bow really works. I agree with you. I give it a 4 for Trekkies.
Oh, you did too. Yeah, I especially like that you mentioned him having to go and get a crew person. Like, I need a translator. I need you.
Yeah.
You know, I need you, Sato. You know, Ensign Sato. Yoshi, please come with me. Hoshi, come with me, please.
Yes. And the thing is that
her initial reaction is like, no.
This is a prequel, right? We really see a communications officer communicating over here, because they're not the universal translator is not quite working. It's not quite perfected. So she has to figure out how listening to other languages. She has to figure out how to communicate with these people. So for the first time, we actually get a communications officer working, instead of saying, hailing frequencies open, sir.
What's next is Discovery, right?
Discovery. Now, the problem with Discovery is that although the pilot is in two parts, they have two separate names for the two parts. They had the separate writers and separate directors.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
So the first part.
So you counted both parts. I only counted that as one, but it's okay.
No, if you want, I'll just do the Vulcan hello, because it really is annoying. The first episode, the pilot, is called the Vulcan hello. It's written by Akiva Goldman and Brian Fuller, Star Trek vets, and it's directed by David Semel. Let me tell you straight out that at this point in time, Brian Fuller was the showrunner for the show. They did not want David Semel. CBS is the one that hired him. They butted heads from the beginning as to the direction of not only the pilot but the show, and it's because of this that Brian Fuller steps down. Okay, so and in the Vulcan hello, we have Captain Giorgio and First Officer Michael Burnham of the USS Shenzhou have a close encounter of the Klingon kind when T'Kuvma looks to unite all the Klingon houses against the Federation. Burnham contacts her adoptive father, Sarek, who tells her that Vulcans earned the respect of the Klingons by firing upon them whenever they met. Burnham advises to fire upon the Klingons, and when Giorgio balks, Burnham tries to take over the ship, just as more Klingon vessels arrive. Okay? So what we have here in this pilot is actually the backstory to the actual series. It does not take place under Discovery, and aside from Detmer, who's the helmsman on the Shinsu, the only characters on Discovery that are in the pilot are Michael Burnham and Saru. What they say, what the Goldsman says, is that rather than spend the rest of the first season doing flashbacks to this stuff, they decided the first two episodes would be this backstory, and then with episode 3 is actually the series on the Discovery with the Discovery character.
So you get a little weird kind of beginning, kind of like the Cage.
Yes, because if this takes place on the Shenzhou is destroyed.
Yeah.
It's not the ship of the
It's not
of the
Discovery.
Show. It's not Discovery. The captain is Captain Giorgio, played by Michelle Yeoh. That's not the captain from the show.
No.
The only three characters are Michael Burnham, Saru, and Detmer. Caleb Detmer, one of your favorite characters, who's the helmsman on the Simpsons. That's the only 3 characters that are in the first 2 episodes that are in the rest of the series.
Yeah.
So it's
weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
And we couldn't just skip them and go straight to Discovery episode 3. I mean, you even different writers on the second episode,
different directors.
It's like you're sabotaging the show on purpose.
So you got part 1 of a 2-part story Part 1 is hamburger. Part 2 is a chicken patty. Now, I'm not saying that the hamburger is better than the chicken patty or the chicken patty is better than the hamburger, but Jesus, they're two different things. And that's what they served up.
That's the problem, yeah.
You know?
That's a problem from the beginning.
Now, one of the problems I have with the Vulcan Hello is that they take the time to introduce the main characters. They make no effort whatsoever to introduce the secondary characters. But meanwhile, the hurt and the pain and the death is in the secondary characters. So we're supposed to feel something for characters that we were never introduced to. As if they were assuming they're Starfleet, it's Star Trek, like them.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's got to be a little effort on your part.
You cannot tell me, okay, this person is Starfleet, like him. No, it doesn't work that way. Sorry. That's lazy writing. And that's what you have here. Lazy writing. Okay? Then the science here is flawed. Okay? I mean, think about this. The Klingon torchbearer is supposed to send a signal that will be seen by Klingons everywhere, and they will all come running. But no explanation is given how a visual signal, presumably traveling at the speed of light, reaches the entire Klingon Empire for those ships to start showing up.
Yeah.
Where's the science in that?
Yeah, there should have been some subspace.
Yeah, unless the signal is traveling through subspace, but that's not what we're shown.
Yeah,
we're shown a visual signal. Okay? Doesn't work, people. And now, this was the killer for me. We're supposed to believe that Burnham and her father are capable, and her adopted father, are capable of instant communication because of their mind meld.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah.
Instant communication.
Yes.
Now let's say that's true. Let's say that because of their mind meld, they are capable of an instant communication. Then if that's the fact, then why don't you have a Vulcan on every ship and every starbase that has mind melded with somebody back at Starfleet headquarters so that you could do away with the subspace radio and have instant communication?
Yeah, they'd all be communications officers.
Yes, yes. And every time, how many times haven't we seen Kirk, Picard, Cisco unable to get in contact with Starfleet, with Starfleet, with Earth, with Starfleet, desperate to the need cow chips.
Yeah, cow chips.
Now, having said that, let me just say something. God, do I love Michael Burnham. Oh my God, do I love that character.
I know you love that character.
I love that. I love her.
And she totally grew on me because I didn't love her. I was like, why?
And her backstory, you know? Like your first reaction is like, how the hell could she be Spock's sister? And we never heard of this. Uh-huh. Well, you know what? I mean, we never knew Spock's parents until they introduced them
in Babel.
Yeah, Journey to Babel, right? So this is what happened. They never said he didn't have any siblings. As a matter of fact, which is the movie? The character Spock's brother.
Oh,
Sybok.
I
forgot the Star Trek.
The Undiscovered Country. No, that's the one after that. Yeah, that's the
Final Frontier.
Yeah, that's it. Final Frontier.
Yeah, and we get introduced to Spock's brother. So you know
they're there.
They just never brought him up.
Yeah,
and this pretty much closes it though, because we're seeing her and Spock little, so there's no other little kids running around. So
yeah, so we don't know where the big brother was in that.
Oh no, but they did establish in Final Frontier that he was Sarek's first wife.
Oh, okay.
A Vulcan princess, Sarek's first wife. So it's not Amanda. So it's presumably he was being raised by his mother, which is why he went wrong. So well, come on. I mean, an argument has to be made that Sarek and Amanda must be fabulous parents if they did such a good job with Michael Burnham and with Spock.
Yeah.
You know,
and we see them do their parenting. Yeah, they do some parenting.
Yeah, so I love that, and I love the actor that plays Sarek, so yeah, I have major problems with the Vulcan Hello. Enough that I'm only going to give it 3.5 Great Geeks, but I really do love the show. This is my problem with that pilot.
Okay. I agree that it's a little difficult to follow, and it's like interesting. I saw that episode twice, and I'm still a little confused and a little confuzzled. But I love Captain Giorgio, and her relationship with Captain Giorgio. I
love Michelle Yeoh.
And just to imagine how Captain Giorgio felt when she does what she does.
Mutiny.
So yeah, I agree with you. It's a hard pilot to follow, made worse by the fact that part 2 is written by somebody else. Sometimes they, inconsistent. However, I'm with you. 3.5 Great Geeks. I love the characters enough that I forgave a little, but it's like I can understand why some people didn't like it.
Right. Some people were up in arms.
Yeah, and the whole thing with the Klingons being different and speaking in a language that we have to have translated on the, for us. It's like, just have them talk English and we understand that they're speaking Klingon. But, they need to brag about Klingon.
You ever see
Klingonese for some people.
There's a fascination among Star Trek writers with
languages.
The languages,
yeah.
And it messes up the pacing of the story.
Yes, absolutely. And even in books that we've read. All right, now we've come to the last one.
And the biggie.
Yeah, Star Trek Picard.
In a very real sense, the biggie.
Yeah. Star Trek Picard, the episode's called Remembrance. I rewatched it last night because it's a good episode.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. Probably the best. After being haunted for 20 years by the death of Data, Admiral Picard is approached by a young woman named Dodge, who just might be the daughter of Data. Because synthetics are outlawed, Dodge is killed, but she has a twin sister who doesn't yet realize she's an android. So, really good episode. The storytelling is fantastic.
Very heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's a heartbreaking
yeah.
episode.
You get to fall in love with a character, and boom, she's gone in that first episode.
and Picard is probably, arguably, one of the most, if not the most beloved Star Trek character, and to see him old.
Yeah.
They're not covering up. They're not trying to make it like
he's a young man.
That this is the Picard from Next Generation. No. He's an old man. Retired, living in his vineyard. He's got a pet dog.
Called Number One. And it's a big dog. It's either a Mastiff or some kind of
or a pit bull.
Something
bull. Like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the character of Dodge. The actress that plays her with nuance, and we feel when she's gone.
Yes.
Because she immediately has a rapport with Picard.
Right.
She's like, why did I have to come to you? What is inside me
that says that I'm safe with you?
Yeah.
And then she dies.
And then so he's like heartbroken, and it's like, I got to do something. And so he talks to Dr. Girardi, who is a cybernetic specialist, and she kind of hints at the fact that, well, she outright says, they come in twos. They're twins, the synthetics, if it were made. And so she works under the idea that because it's illegal, it can't be done. Right. But we know better.
Like cloning.
Uh-huh.
There's no such thing as clones. It's illegal.
Uh-huh.
There are no clones in this world.
Wink, wink. All right, so I totally loved this episode. Totally loved the show. 4.5 great geeks, and I don't think I am wrong on this.
and you want to know something?
What?
That's exactly what I gave it.
Oh.
4.5 great geeks.
Yeah, it's close to perfect.
It's the gem of the pilot.
Yes.
It's the gem of the pilot.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's not just, we're not talking about just the shows. We're talking about the pilots. All right? And so...
Yeah, because let me tell you something, all right? Mm-hmm. No matter what we may have said about Emissary, Deep Space Nine, one of my favorites. Absolutely.
It's the best written show.
It's the best written Star Trek ever. Okay, so we're not talking about the shows. We're talking about the pilots.
Uh-huh.
And since most of these shows lasted 7 years, they had time to grow. They had to... and believe me, Next Generation needed that time. It really needed that time. But oh my God, those last 4 seasons, best of Star Trek. Even Voyager, which is probably, most people say it's the least favorite, but it had a loyal fan following that lasted the entire 7 years.
Yes, and when 7 of 9 came on, they added more followers.
Yes, absolutely. So we're not talking about the shows. Mm-hmm. We're talking about the pilot. The shows speak for themselves. The fact that we can sit here and talk about that Star Trek has had 7 live action series is a testament to Star Trek, is a testament to its universe, and a testament to Gene Roddenberry.
And another 2 that are coming. Yeah.
The great bird of the galaxy. It's a testament, and there's 2 coming. Strange New Worlds and Section 31. So
there's more on the way.
And they're talking about doing another Star Trek movie. They actually have 3 movies planned. None of them are in pre-production. There's one. They want to do another one with the Kelvin universe, but Chris Pine is not doesn't want to come on board.
He's busy,
right? Quentin Tarantino wants to do a Star Trek movie, but he's involved in a movie, and he claimed that this movie was going to be his last. He was going to retire. So his Star Trek movie is up in arms, and there's another one, David Hamer, I think his name is, that he wants to do a Star Trek movie. Nobody knows whether it's Kelvin universe or he said that he wanted to do a Star Trek movie with a whole new crew, a whole new ship, and everything. Not in the Star Trek universe, but not tied to any series. It's up in the air. He's working on something else right now. It's up in the air. That's actually the one, if left up to me, that's the one that I would say.
The last one?
To go with.
David Hamer?
Yeah, to a whole new, in the Star Trek universe, but its own ship and crew without being dependent upon anything else. You just got to get a
movie idea would be Starfleet Academy.
Oh,
I've been dying for Starfleet Academy.
Oh, I forgot to tell you.
What?
There's talk about that being another series.
Awesome.
About doing a series, Starfleet Academy.
Ever since I read the Peter David books, I want Starfleet Academy.
I meant to tell you that.
I'd
seen that in. Remember that article that they posted where they talk about the future of Star Trek. Paramount talks about the future, everything that it's got to work. One of the things that their ideas they're throwing around is Starfleet Academy as a show.
Okay.
As a show.
All right, we
Because I
now
know for a long time
that's been a thing.
That's
Yeah.
been a thing.
Ever since the Starfleet Academy books by Peter David came out, now they're middle school books, but I loved them, so I was like, let's do this. All right, so according to what I have written down, I think this is our ranking, but there might be a little give and take because geeks like to argue. Picard as the top pilot. All right. I would say second would be Enterprise's Broken Bow. DS9 would be my third. And what was the name of DS9? Was
Emissary.
Emissary. Oh, that's... My mind must have gone blank when I mentioned DS9. How could I... DS9 is my thing. Discovery is number 4.
Yeah, I agree.
And Voyager number 5.
Yes.
And the original series.
Yes.
Yes, because, even though, of all of them, it just seems like the least to follow the show because, again, you didn't have characters that eventually joined the show. Nothing is as bad as The Next Generation.
Encounter at Farpoint.
And mind you, afterwards, we grew to love that show.
This is probably, I don't know if it's the fan favorite show, but it is certainly the most successful of all the Star Trek shows. Next Generation was the most successful. You have to admit that.
Yeah.
You have to admit that.
And
not only was it 7 years on the air, but then all the movies. Okay, so you have to call it the most, and then for it to have the worst. What a turnaround! The worst pilot, and becomes the most successful show.
And even more funny is that Picard, right, goes on to do his own show,
a spinoff,
which was supposed to not include any single one of the Next Generation crew, and yet
we get Data, we get Riker,
Deanna,
and we get Deanna, and next season we're getting Guinan.
Yeah, and he's and
oh, you do know that, right, people?
Yeah.
That what's it? The Voice, The View. Yeah. Patrick Stewart got on The View and in front of everybody invited Whoopi Goldberg to reprise the role as Guinan on the second season of Picard, and she said yes in front of everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. She was blushing. Since when do you see Whoopi Goldberg get shy? But in front of Patrick Stewart, it's like, yeah, I'll do anything. Yes.
That was nice.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So this has been our 200th post.
200!
Yes, make some noise. Why not? Let's be obnoxious. 200th post. In less than 1 year.
Less than a year.
All right. So
and you know what that means?
What?
It's obvious. There's no denying it. We got big mouths.
All right. So with that having been said,
what a way to end it.
My name is Louis Matos. I am the Mustache.
I am Junior Figueroa. I be the Beard.
We say thanks for watching.
We love you.
See you later.
Hasta la vista.
Take it easy
and peace.